Hello, welcome to the Internet Chess Club. This is Grandmaster Miguel Illescas, and we are here to make the video recap of day one of the FIDE World Rapid Championship, which is taking place in Poland. This is a 13-round Swiss tournament which will happen in the next 3 days from 26 to 28 of December. The prize fund is huge, $350,000 with $60,000 for the first prize. All the top players are taking part here, mainly Magnus Carlsen, Jan Nepomniachtchi, but we have also Hikaru Nakamura, some specialists on this time control, also the Polish player Duda, and many others. We will see a lot of interesting games in this video, so join me to the action, which will start in round one. Let's go. And we already got some, I would not say surprises, but we were very close. For example, look what happened in Magnus' game. He was really, well, I mean, I was pretty sure the game was going to be a draw. In fact, after some complicated game, okay, they reached some endgame, which was completely drawish in my opinion, this position. But Magnus, of course, he tried to squeeze the endgame, and after a few moves they reached this position, which I thought, okay, this is already too much. To pretend to win this position is a bit too much, but not for Magnus Carlsen. Look at this, I mean, he started to play, but I thought, okay, even if he's taking this pawn, this is going to be a draw. In fact, after knight g3, if white takes, then check, and knight c5, and this endgame is a dead draw, of course. But Magnus, he wanted to try his best, and he decided to play against the knight. Look, the knight is kind of trapped, and white pretends to attack it with king g4, creating some problems for black. So in the game, black solved these problems, playing well. It was not too difficult. The problem for white is that the knight is jumping too much. I mean, it's very difficult to catch it. Look at this, knight f1. The knight is getting away from h2 to f3, and it was almost impossible for white to really get the knight. So finally, Magnus went for this position, and this is quite interesting because it looks like it's a completely drawish position. I mean, I could not imagine that they would play on. But Magnus, he wanted to play, and he, in fact, he found a little idea which helped him to win this game. It's amazing because, okay, I mean, it looks like a completely drawish position. In fact, I thought, why not to come back? Knight c4, and it's impossible. It's impossible to find a plan for white. But his opponent, Gagunashvili, went rook d3, and now Magnus, he found a little idea which will pose some problems for black. Look at this, bishop e1 and bishop f2. He wants to move the rook away, and of course, if king a6, rook c7 is going to win the game because the mate on a7. I mean, if knight b6, rook c6. So then black got in panic. He had to play rook d2, but he went king b7, and now, okay, Magnus, he is already pawn up. Of course, still draw, because at any moment the knight can sacrifice for the pawn, but this is precisely what Magnus is looking for. He's trying to play the rook and bishop versus rook endgame, which can be sometimes dangerous, especially in these time controls. The point is that black played quite badly, I have to admit. I mean, he, instead of blockading here, which could be a choice, well, I'm not sure in this position, because maybe if knight b5, maybe in rook c6 check. But in general, this is pretty drawish. I mean, there are many moves here, king b7, for example. But he started to jump with the knight, and finally he got in a strange position because the knight could not really maneuver, and white, simple idea is to try to grab this knight. But how to manage? Okay, let's have a look at Magnus Carlsen technique, which is amazing. I mean, this guy is amazing. How he managed to grab this knight with bishop b6, and now the knight, well, it can go to b7, but then bishop c7 check, and if black plays king c8, it's probably lost because bishop d6 check, and now white is winning. So at this point black decided to give the knight and to play the very famous endgame. At the beginning he was doing well, in my opinion. This is a very well-known endgame. I defended it 3 times with the weak side, and I managed to draw all 3 times with this defense precisely. And here in this position I recommend the move king d8, sorry, king a5. The point is that if white unpins here, we will go with our king to the opposite side, and of course if king d4, then king a6. And this is pretty simple. The best move for white here is to lose a tempi, and then we have to play rook b2. I mean, sorry, in this case rook g5. And again, if king here, and it's quite a simple draw. But okay, after king b6, he got to c8 and sorry, to a6. And suddenly now it's not so simple, because now the king will be in little trouble soon, and he will start to have to find only moves. This is usually a bad idea. I mean, you should be, your rook and king should be in the opposite wings. This is the beginning of difficult moments. And this is a total collapse, of course. King e3, rook b1 check. This was the biggest blunder of the first round, probably, this move. But he was already under big pressure, because if king here, then rook b3, and you have to find the move rook c4, which is the only move not to lose the game. And of course it's a draw, but now there is some suffering. Okay, congratulations to Magnus, who has infinite faith in victory, and he's always fighting till the last drop and of blood, and really he got his prize in this game. Some other players, they won convincingly, like Hikaru Nakamura. Still okay, he had some problems in his game. Nakamura, I think the first round it's always dangerous, because they are still not hot. I mean, they are cold, and they make some mistakes in this. Sometimes they get his life quite complicated, like Nakamura in this game. Look, this was a position after move to 32. Well, white is better. I mean, 2 bishops, wonderful pressure on c7, nice king coming to f2. It's incredible that Donchenko lost this position, but this is rapid chess. I mean, it's not enough to play well, you need to play fast. And at this point, Donchenko had only 20 seconds, Nakamura had half minute, but it's clear that he's a big specialist in these faster time controls, and finally he managed to win the game. The same can be said about some other favorites, like Jan Duda, who was playing on board number 3. But okay, in general, the Polish, he was more consistent. In fact, in all the 5 rounds, I think he was the player who played better chess. And now I was picking some games from this first round. One was of Duda, precisely, because I think it was, yes, it was at this moment. He had a very interesting position after the move king g7, and here he played a very interesting idea, bishop b5. Jan Duda against Johannes Gabuzian from Armenia. And the point is that black is kind of forced to take on c3 and take on b5. Then he's allowing this check, and now rook e7 is losing because queen f6. Then he has to take with the queen and take on f1. And we reach this interesting position. It's quite interesting that finally black was kind of, well, not forced, but he decided to take on e7, to take this pawn, and to play this fortress. And to be honest, I thought this was going to be a draw, because look at the position, how white can break this blockade. In fact, we have equal material, rook, knight, and pawn. But black played some mistakes. One of the mistakes was to leave his king too lonely. In this moment, he decided to change his setup. I don't know what was the reason, but he decided to bring his rook to a4. He thought maybe he's cutting the king and protecting the pawn, but the queen is very powerful, and it started to be a bit annoying for the black king, which now if knight e4, then sometimes, well, in fact, this was played in the game, knight e4, and now it's already lost, because after king b3, there is this checkmate, and if knight c5, queen c5, and white is with tempi winning this endgame by 1 tempi, as we will see very soon. He promotes with check, and he's winning the game. So you need to be a bit lucky, but if you are a strong player, usually luck is more often going with to your interest. So, well, I mean, from first round I didn't check any more games. Let's have a look at the second round, where already there are some pairings which are a bit more equal. One of them was Magnus Carlsen. He could not win his game with black against the Armenian Ter Sahakian, and the Norwegian was left with 1.5 after 2 rounds. Nakamura, he also was held by Jordan Van Forest, the strong Dutch grandmaster, and one of the favorites who won his game was Jan Duda. He won with black, and it's quite interesting the way he did it. I think one of the best games of the tournament so far. Look, he was taking a lot of risk with his opening, because they tried to play something a bit unusual to create some play. This is I'm not going to say dubious line, but of course not very typical. But he knew very well what he was doing. We will see very soon that black starting to create some play, and if we play a3 here, someday b3 can be very weak. So it's natural to play king c2 here, knight f6, and now the knight pretends to come maybe to b6, maybe to c5, and white made a decision which I don't quite like it, bishop e5. And why not? Because this move, rook a5, is pretty, and in my opinion, pretty strong. White played f4, and here after a3, white played b4, and black decided to sack an exchange. In my opinion, a very good exchange sacrifice. It's interesting because it's not so easy, because white has this move knight b1, and he's taking on a3, but black played wonderful. You will see c6, very good move, and now king c7. It's very interesting because it's only, I mean, no pawns for the exchange, just a pair of bishops, but what bishops? Amazing bishops. And the big problem for white is that he cannot move the knight because pawn takes b5. And if he, well, I mean, if he takes, then pawn takes and rook is coming to b8, and this is really scary for the white king. So what to do? In the game, white played h3, trying to go bishop g4, and black played h5, and after rook f1, rook a8, and rook a5, attacking on b5, white moved the king, and now knight f6, attacking on e4, and I mean, white can never really solve his problems with the knight in this game. After rook b3, knight e4, black already got 1 pawn for the exchange, and very soon he's going to get a much better endgame. After knight c4, it's already 2 pawns, and here he's simply getting back the exchange with a winning endgame. He won without any problem. So this was a good game for Duda. And in this round number 2, I also was paying attention to some other games. One of them of Nepomniachtchi. I liked very much this game. I think it's also one of the best games of Nepo in this tournament so far. Look at this. It's a Karokan. And how important it is to remember all theory, to know all ideas like Nepo did. By the way, here it's a very funny trap. If queen d4, it's a very bad move. You know why? If bishop h7, queen e5 check, but knight f7. This is the trick in this line. And of course, if king f7, bishop g6 check, and we are going to take the queen. Okay, after bishop d3, take, knight d7, and this idea, white is saving 1 tempi. He didn't have to put his pawn on h5, and this line is pretty dangerous for black. I mean, this tempi up is really important, and not only because the tempi, but also we will see because the square h5 can be used for white. And this is what happened in this game today. After bishop c3, black played a mistake. I don't know if he didn't know theory or he didn't remember. He had 12 minutes, but he was under big pressure because Nepo was playing so fast. At this moment, Nepo had still 17 minutes, 2 more minutes than at the beginning. Black played castle, which is a bad mistake because after take, it looks like everything is fine for black, check, and take. But look what, so easy. Knight h5, so easy. Nepo still here with almost 18 minutes. Amazing. He was playing all his moves instantly. And in fact, he continued playing very fast. He didn't think at all. Here, he had already still 18 minutes. And black was already under 10 minutes. The point is that black is getting very weak white squares on the king side, and this is going to be really a big problem for Bartosz Soczko. Very soon he tried to trade some pieces, but white is dominating the open file, and very soon he's improving his position, putting everything perfect, all his pawns, and the pawn on a3. You may say, okay, come on, the bishop is not so bad. I mean, it's very active. Yes, but it's hitting completely empty squares, and white has full control of the position. At this moment, Nepo still had more than 15 minutes. This was a bit humiliating. I have the feeling that his opponent was getting a bit nervous. But Nepo, he knew perfectly how to play. He transferred the knight to f5, and now he's ready to enter and attack the pawn on g7. There is nothing black can do. He tried to create some problems with the e-pawn, but very soon it will be seen that black is okay. I mean, it's a position to resign, because if queen e3, queen f7 is checkmate. So he decided to play a bit more, but after this finesse, if queen d7, knight f6 check, getting an endgame with many pawns up, okay, in fact black collapsed completely here because he played check here, but he lost all his pawns, and at this moment, move 46, he decided to resign. So Nepo was really playing very fast, very aggressive, and with big confidence. I thought at this moment that he may be one of the favorites for this tournament. This is typically, after you lose one world title, maybe you win something else. But okay, we will see. There was, I think on round 2, we saw already the games I wanted to show you. So let's go for, I think, yes. Let's go for round 3. In round 3, there were several interesting games. First of all, okay, Magnus won his game, but I was paying more attention again to some other players. For example, in this round, it was interesting game of Nepo, also Grishuk, and Caruana. Caruana, he made a terrible blunder in I'm not going to say well-known position. It's a very interesting opening. We can have a look at this game. It's pretty interesting. Abdusatorov playing white, and he played in a very interesting way, knight d2, take, and knight b1. I like it a lot. I mean, I like very much. This knight came to b1, and now it looks like white is behind in development, but it doesn't matter so much. The position is pretty close, and he gets a very good version of some other normal lines. But a big mistake came here on move 15, when Caruana, he forgot completely about his pawn, and he played knight c7, which is losing immediately because the simple move queen b7, and of course after rook b8 c, take on c6, and here bishop c1, very simple, and white is a pawn up. So Caruana lost because his opponent, a very strong player from Uzbekistan, 17 years old. He just won 2 open tournaments in Spain, quite strong tournaments, and is a very promising player. After this game, Abdusatorov was with 3 out of 3. Duda, he beat Bolokitin in this round, and Nepo beat Vidit. I think this was a quite interesting game. I think there was a critical moment at the end. Let me check it. No, it was all the time winning for black. Yeah, this was a good game from Nepo. Again, against a very strong opponent, Vidit. I was No, I was, yes, no, this game was a bit boring. No, I was not checking this game. It was a good technical win for Nepo. But I wanted to see from this game of Grishuk, which is quite funny. This game of Alexander Grishuk. He was playing black. Nakamura, by the way, he could not win the game. He made a draw. And I want to see this game of Grishuk, which was, I say, quite funny. Because I think it was round 3, yes. But I cannot find it here now. This, yes, Kiparadze Grishuk, yes, sorry. I say it was quite funny because it was a tragedy in the opening. Look, White pretended to be too clever and things backfired to this young player Giga Kuparadze from Georgia. After g5 b4, main move is gf6, but White decided to try knight d5. Looks quite strange, but maybe playable. After knight d4, he played bishop g2, and this is a decisive mistake already. It was very difficult, the position, but bishop g2 is a mistake. Can you find why? Can you find why? Grishuk, he did find it. He took quite fast, and he played immediately a very strong move here, rook a7. And suddenly White is understood his position is completely lost. If queen e4, rook e7, suddenly he's losing the queen. But the problem is that if bishop e4, then bishop b7, taking on e4, and now if queen e4 again, rook e7, and of course if queen a7, then bishop h1. And black is a piece up with a winning position. So Grishuk won his game. He got also a perfect score of 3 out of 3 after 3 rounds. What else? I think we should move to, maybe we can have a look at Jobava. This player from Georgia, he was at this moment with 2 points, 2 out of 2, and he won a good game here. I want to go to position after move 17. He got a slightly better position, Jobava. It's equal material, but it's clear black is slightly worse. White got a very nice majority on the queen side with a good bishop, pieces more active, but black played here a big blunder, which made things much faster. He played rook a e8, and I invite you to find the way to play for White. Yes, even in rapid this is not too difficult. Jobava played a5 and knight takes e6. And of course the point if black takes, check, and the knight is falling on d7. And black tried to complicate things with bishop f6, but after knight c7, he's much better, White is much better, pawn up and a better position. And he won pretty convincingly after a few moves. He was, in fact, the knight on c8 is pretty bad. And after rook d7, knight d5, I think at this point, yes, black resigned after 30 moves. So Jobava, he also joined the leaders with 3 out of 3. And we have to go to round number 4 to see some more exciting games. There, I was following, of course, the game of Magnus Carlsen. He won again. But there were also, yes, he won a good technical game. But there were some interesting moments in some other games as well. I mean, for example, Nakamura was very interesting. The game of Muradli as well, also Shirov. Muradli Jobava was a quite crazy game. And Jobava was a bit lucky in this game because after 14 moves, his position looked pretty bad. Look at this. White is accumulating pieces on the king side, and this looks extremely dangerous for Jobava's king. He played rook e6, which is a good move, trying to protect a bit from the third rank. And at this point, knight f5 was very strong, but White played bishop f6, which is also good. Black played rook c6 with the threat rook c1 check. And now I invite you to think, what would you play here with White? It's a strategical decision. No, there are no tactics here, no time, because rook c1 check is a threat. So you have to think in a more strategical way. What is better, to play queen f4 or to play h3? What do you think? Okay, don't be upset. If you played queen f4, you played like this very strong Indian grandmaster Murali, so don't worry. It's quite a good move, but it was better h3. h3 was very strong, and the reason is that it doesn't make sense for black to trade rooks on c1, because that would mean to trade this active rook for this passive rook, and that would help white very much in the attack. But the problem for black is there are no good ways to meet the threats, like knight f5, queen h5. For example, if king h8, maybe we can already sacrifice a piece with knight f5, and after pawn takes, the attack is incredibly strong. For example, queen g4, we are threatening mate, and black has to give the piece back with bishop h6, otherwise he's going to be mated. But after bishop h6, there are several ways to be better. One of the simplest is to regain, trade queens, and play a better position. There are some other ways as well. Okay, so you need to be a bit lucky. Jobava was a bit lucky here after queen f4. His opponent started to play some bad moves. a3 was also a mistake because he missed knight a2. Now rook c1 will trade queens, and white, usually when you make some mistakes, you collapse. Now he lost all the attack, the rook left, and now it's clear he's completely in tilt. g4 is a very bad move. He wants to play knight f5 and take with the pawn, but it doesn't make any sense here. After knight e4, he sacrificed exchange, another bad decision. One after another, d5 is a big mistake, and now black plays e3, and he's completely winning. If queen takes e3, queen g4, and if pawn takes e3, check, check, and take. And it's decisive advantage for black. So Jobava was lucky here. He got another point, 4 points, 4 out of 4, and he was the only player with Duda who beat Aleksei in a good game. They were the only leaders after 5 rounds, after 4 rounds. So we go to round number 5. Well, I mean, Shirov game was quite interesting. Najer Shirov, mainly this what we are talking about, the luck. I mean, if you are strong, you are lucky, but sometimes it's simply too much. Like in this endgame, here, this is the position after move 28, and white is much better. I mean, his exchange up, and some pawns are falling. Shirov tried his best to create some counterplay here, but white is trying to trade rooks, and it would be game over. So Shirov had to play rook e3 and then b4, and white is getting a clear advantage here. After a few moves, he's grabbing this pawn on d5, and okay, it's a clear exchange up. This is the only compensation, one double pawn, and it should be not, I'm not going to say easy win, but a win for sure for white. But they were short of time. Najer, he had only 20 seconds, Shirov 1 minute, and the game went on, and very weird things happened. This was the first not very precise move, rook h5, because the rook will be kind of out of the queen side, and now black is going to get his pieces perfect for defense. With the bishop on e5, the rook on c4, white played f4 to drive this bishop away, but now the rook cannot move because f4 is hanging, and things are not so simple. Probably it's already draw here. But white wanted to lose, because after king f3, h5 was a shock for white. Suddenly I think he should make a draw with rook h5, and okay, rook f4, and okay, to make a draw here. Yeah, it's true. I mean, to admit that things didn't go the way it was expected. But he insisted to play for a win with king g3, after check, king h4, and here, okay, this was probably drawish, take, and b3, and probably this is not enough for white to win. What else? Well, I mean, he went rook f3, is a very tricky move. Probably it was a losing move, probably if rook c5, because now if he takes on f4, then check and king g4, and this is very bad news for black. But it's clear that Najer didn't have his best day, because he played rook h5, and now, can you see the best move for black? Yes, of course. Very simple. Bishop f4 and mate on the next move. And Shirov won this game, amazing, with exchange down. This allowed Shirov to join a group of not leaders but followers, and he had to play in the round number 5 with Magnus Carlsen. We are going to see this game. I think this was my choice for round 4, so let's go to round 5. And on round 5 we had two leaders fighting each other, Jobava. This was game between Duda Jobava. It was a game where white was dominating. I think white was better, but Jobava somehow he defended. He was really under big pressure. I mean, at one point this was the position, and white was really with two bishops and a better position. But Jobava was fighting like a lion, and finally he got his prize, escaping a very difficult position. At one point he made a decisive blunder. Rook takes c6. According to the computer, this is already losing, and there is not enough compensation. But still Jobava was trying, and at this moment white was exchange up, and at this moment he played pawn takes g6, losing a big part of his advantage. It was winning according to the computer h6. But of course these are not easy moves, I mean, especially when you are so short on time. But the final mistake came from white in this position, a very difficult position. He played rook d3, which was not good. He had to play king b2. It was of course a very tactical game, and Jobava is quite a strong player, very creative and good in calculation, so I am not surprised that this was a draw. And this allowed Magnus Carlsen to join the leaders, winning his game with Shirov. But you will not imagine the way he won again. Incredible. Look, it's very interesting, the opening. Let's see this game from the beginning, and I think this will be the last game we will check. But it's very interesting. I mean, they were following this very well-known Ruy Lopez variation, some kind of anti-martial, and Aleksei was well prepared to make a draw, because he chose this line, and it's well known that after knight d5, pawn takes d5, and black has to play knight d4, take, and here it's a good moment to shake hands and make a draw. This is very well known. But then, okay, what to do? If you are the world champion and you want to win, you need to avoid this knight d4, and he went knight b4, which is quite a bad move. Magnus Carlsen, he knew he was going to get worse, but at least he could still try to play for a win in this game. But okay, Shirov, he's a strong player. This was really very, very risky what Magnus did. And very soon white will get a clear plus after a few moves. I was checking this position, and okay, yes, at this point I thought, if we follow the computer's recommendation, white is almost winning. Queen f3 was very strong, with the simple idea of bringing the rook to e1. And if rook d8, white is in time to play rook e1, because d5 cannot be taken because queen h3, threatening mate. And at the same time, the bishop is still hanging, so white would be winning. But if black plays something like bishop d6, then very simple idea, bishop e3, bishop d4, and we are going to checkmate this poor king. The queen is very far away, and that would be really a nightmare. I think impossible to save even for Magnus Carlsen. But after queen e1, black got some decent play, and very soon he got even slightly better, and that allowed Magnus to press a little bit, but Shirov defended well, and they were finally in this endgame, which was, to my taste, pretty drawish. I mean, it's true that black is going to be maybe pawn up, taking this guy. In fact, Shirov gave the pawn very fast. I mean, he didn't care to keep it. He decided to make a fortress here, and okay, yes, black is a pawn up, but okay, come on, let's be serious. I mean, it's impossible to win this position. This pawn promotes on white square. That makes things pretty simple for white, who only needs to sacrifice his knight for these pawns or for one of them. Well, I mean, how to play for a win here with black. I mean, this guy Magnus, it's incredible how he finds ideas to play for a win in all positions. And this reminds me very much the game which happened on round 1. I mean, look how he played. The bishop came here, and suddenly the bishop is on e3, and suddenly there are some threats: rook c1, rook g1 mate. At the same time, the bishop from e3 is cutting the knight, the enemy knight, and Shirov has to be careful here not to lose the game. Rook e2 was a good move, avoiding rook c1, and then Magnus improves his position, and now he's ready to bring the king to the fight. Again, white has to be creative to solve his problems, and knight c7 is a good idea, just offering to go for some rook endgames, which would be a draw. And after knight d5, bishop c5, sorry, bishop d4, and okay, now it looks like, okay, come on, it should be drawish because the knight again is free. But Shirov made a big mistake after rook e5, because now black has the move rook d2 check, and things become very, very difficult for... in fact, it was not easy here already, because if knight c6, rook d1, and again rook g1 is coming. So it's amazing how Magnus created problems from scratch, almost from zero. And at this point, after rook e5 check, he's very close to win, but still there is some play for white, because the bishop is under attack. It's not so easy. And of course, if bishop d6, knight f5 check, and it's the draw. And then Magnus plays rook c2. And now Shirov, he had to find the way to make a draw, which is not so obvious. Can you find it? There is one clear way to make a draw, but you need to find a very precise idea. Yes, can you find it? Yeah, the idea is rook e6 check. And after king h7, rook c6, and pinning this bishop will guarantee white a very peaceful draw. Now the knight would be free to play knight d5 or whatever, and this would be a draw. But Shirov played knight f5 check, and suddenly his position is lost. This is the things which happen when you face the world champion in an endgame. He's amazing. Now there are some threats, king f6, king e6, and the knight has no squares. I mean, it's incredible. Shirov played knight e3, and then he lost on time, but the position was already lost. Simply take, rook h2, 2 pawns up, and that would be a piece of cake for Magnus Carlsen's technique. Okay, what happened then in the tournament? Let's have a look at the standings. Let's have a look at the standings after 5 games. This is the situation. 3 players with 4.5. The Polish Duda, he played wonderfully. Magnus Carlsen, after the second game, which was a draw, he's winning every single position. And Jobava, he's the surprise of the tournament so far. And with 4 points, we have a group of players. I would highlight Nepomniachtchi, Firoja, Grishu, Giri. And with 3.5 down, we have Nakamura, Vachilagraf, and with 3 points, we have Dubov or Aronian. Dubov, by the way, he lost with David Anton, an incredible game. I mean, Dubov was better. It was an incredible game. I mean, queen and 4 versus queen and 3, and Dubov managed to lose that game, and now he lost the trail of the leaders. What are the games for tomorrow? Let's have a look. Jobava will play with Magnus Carlsen on board 1. Nepo will face Duda on board 2. And there are a lot of interesting games. I hope you will join us tomorrow for the recap of day 2 of this World Rapid Championship. And I remind you that after these 3 days of Rapid, we will have the Blitz tournament, and we will also try to do a decent recap like today. I hope you enjoy it, and see you tomorrow. Bye bye.